A young woman named Boby sits at her desk in her apartment. She gets a letter from a lawyer. Boby opens it up. The lawyer explains that he's a family friend who was close to her late aunt, Salma. Boby hasn't heard from her aunt in years, so she's confused about what this letter means. Then she remembers her aunt had a rambling old mansion in the countryside. The lawyer says that he'd like to go over the details of Selma's will with Boby in person. He tells her to meet him at the nearest train station. Once there, Boby learns that Selma has passed away, leaving her the family mansion. Boby is confused because she thought her aunt died 30 years ago. And it seems like she did. The lawyer says that there are no other living relatives. So now Boby is the sole inheritor of the estate. She's hesitant, though, because if her aunt really did die 30 years ago, then what's she supposed to do with the mansion? The lawyer urges her to see the property for herself, but he warns her that no one's lived there in decades. The locals say it's haunted. When Boby asks how she can get in contact with him if she does decide to take him up on his offer, he gives her his card, warning her not to go to the house tonight. As soon as she leaves, we pan over to a rusted sign at the end of the dirt road leading to the house. It reads, "Beware of dog." Now, several hours later, Boby arrives at the house. Her car is the first vehicle to pass by in quite some time. Dust flies behind it. The sun sets as Boby pulls up outside the mansion. She walks around, taking in its grandeur. Ivy crawls up its sides. Ivy grows out of its chimney. The windows gleam back at her like dark eyes. The front door hangs off its hinges. Boby steps inside. We see that the interior of the house is just as dilapidated as the exterior. Everything is covered in white sheets, giving the whole place a funeral home vibe. Boby pushes them aside, revealing one object in the middle of the main room that isn't covered in any fabric. It's a large, ornate mirror hanging from the wall. The reflection doesn't react when Boby waves to it. Just as she's about to walk past, she notices a dark shadow pass behind her, so she spins around. No one's there. Then she looks back at the mirror and sees the door close behind her. Confused, she turns again. The door is still open. As she continues to explore the house, Boby notices that almost every room has a locked or boarded up staircase leading up to the second floor. Apparently, most of the structure is off limits to her. Just as she's about to give up and leave for the night, she hears a noise upstairs, footsteps. Then soft weeping comes from the walls. Boby tries to convince herself that the house is just making noises. But then she hears whispering coming from the room where the mirror was. "Boby, leave before the 7th night," they say. Boby stays awake all night, terrified, until she sees the first rays of sunlight creep through the windows. The next morning, she goes back to the room with the mirror. But now the mirror is covered in white sheets, just like everything else. When she pulls it away, she finds some more mirrors behind the first. She approaches them cautiously and sees her reflection. She waves and the reflections don't move. But when she looks between the two, she sees a bloody meat cleaver lying on the floor, dripping onto a carpet. Then she sees the blade shoot towards her, but only within the reflections. She whips around, but nothing's there. She looks back at the mirrors. One of them is now showing a blooded meat cleaver resting on the floor. But when she moves her head, the cleaver drops to the ground and clatters. It's not a part of the house. It's real. Shaken by what she saw, Boby runs away from the house and hides in a nearby cave for the rest of the day. She comes out only at night to find the mansion. Now, Boby finds mirror 3. This one's in an old bedroom. She approaches it hesitantly and sees her own face looking back at her, but her face is twisted and rotten. There's flesh hanging off her cheek, teeth falling out of her mouth. She looks at it longer and sees one of her hands become skeletal. Then she watches as her entire body begins to decay. Terrified, she backs away. Suddenly, a scratching noise comes from inside the mirror. It seems to be trying to claw its way out. Boby turns to run, but as she does, she sees a black shadow detach itself from her body and escape into the mirror. She runs to the mirror, but the shadow isn't there. Then she takes a good look at her reflection. The shadow hadn't been a part of her. It must have been following her the whole time. When she looks away, the shadow creeps forward, and when she looks back, it darts out of sight. Boby runs from the house, hiding in the forest until morning. Now 2 days later, Boby returns to the house. She's armed with a crowbar this time. She enters the house and finds Mirror 4. This one is in a hallway lined with portraits of old men and women staring at her. She approaches the mirror. As she does, she sees the same black shadow detach itself from her and dive into the glass. She takes a swing at the mirror with her crowbar, cracking it, but the shadow isn't hurt. She reaches inside to grab it, but her hand disappears into the mirror. It's not solid, it's only reflecting reality. The shadow darts back out and runs down the hallway. But when Boby exits the room to chase it, she finds that it's gone. Suddenly, the paintings on the wall seem to leer at her. Their eyes bulge from their sockets. As she spends the third night in the mansion, she hears more scratching from within the mirrors. The house groans. The mirrors seem to be getting closer, as if they want to be near her. On the fourth night, she finds Mirror 5. Behind the mirror, she sees a corpse bricked into a wall. The bricks are oozing blood. She pokes at them with her finger. The bleeding intensifies. When she looks away, a black hand bursts through the bricks and grabs her finger. She screams and pulls away. The hand retreats. On the fifth night, she finds Mirror 6. She sees herself sleeping in her bed. Then she sees a man standing over her with a meat cleaver. She wakes up screaming. The man isn't there. Now, on the sixth night, she hears scratching from all of the mirrors. She sees the doors she couldn't open before slowly creaking open. At the end of the hallway, she sees the seventh mirror. Above it, an engraving in ancient Arabic reads, "Who sees their true self shall not leave." With shaking hands, she reaches out and touches it. It doesn't show her, but her Aunt Salma, who died 30 years ago, now pale, hollow-eyed, smiling from inside the glass. Salma speaks to her from the mirror. "I left the house to you, but I never left it." A dark hand shoots from the mirror and drags Boby inside. Days later, the police arrive at the house after receiving reports of a missing person. They enter the mansion to find that it's empty. Everything is dusty, silent. But in the final room, they find the seventh mirror. Inside it, they see Boby standing, but she doesn't seem to notice them. She taps on the glass, eyes wide, mouthing, "Help me." Then suddenly, red letters smear across the mirror's surface. "I didn't stay behind. You entered.